The Wyoming dusk cast a harsh glow over the Laramie County auction house, its flickering fluorescent lights buzzing above a concrete floor stained with years of neglect. The air was thick with murmurs and the sharp tang of dust, the crowd's jeers cutting through the stale heat. In the center lay Titan, a black German shepherd, his scarred muzzle still, his dull coat revealing ribs that spoke of starvation and cruelty. Once a proud military canine, he was now a shadow, motionless, his spirit crushed by abuse. The auctioneer's voice cracked with desperation. "Starting bid, $50. Anyone?" Laughter rippled through the room, voices muttering, "Broken dog and not worth the trouble." Ryan Mitchell, 32, stood in the back, his brown hair hidden under a worn baseball cap, his carpenter's jacket frayed at the cuffs. His calloused hands clenched, a familiar rage stirring from his days as a Marine. At the edge of the crowd, Grace Mitchell, his 60-year-old mother, her silver hair tied back, her retired teacher's sweater neat, watched with concern. She'd dragged Ryan here, hoping to pull him out of his isolation, but now she feared what he might do. "50!" Ryan's voice, steady but haunted, sliced through the mockery. The room fell silent, heads turning. Grace's breath caught, her voice a whisper. "Ryan, are you sure?" He didn't look at her, his gaze locked on Titan, recognizing the hollow stare of a soul pushed too far. The auctioneer blinked, recovering. "Sold! $200! Sign the waiver!" The crowd snickered, but Ryan stepped forward, his boots echoing, ignoring the paperwork thrust at him. Grace followed, her hand on his arm, her voice soft. "He's hurt, Ryan. This won't be easy." Ryan's jaw tightened, his voice low. "I know broken when I see it, Mom." "He's coming with me." Dr. Laura Bennett, 45, a veterinarian with blonde hair tucked under a cap, stood in the corner, her vet coat creased from a long day. She'd fought to save Titan, but military red tape had tied her hands. Her eyes met Ryan's, a flicker of hope in her gaze. "He's been through hell," she said, handing over a worn leash. "They called him Ghost, said he's worthless. Won't eat, won't let anyone near." Ryan crouched 6 feet from Titan, his voice calm, deliberate. "Hey, buddy, I'm Ryan." "I'm not here to hurt you." The dog's ears twitched, his body tensing, a low growl rumbling. Grace stepped back, her voice trembling. "Ryan, he's dangerous." But Ryan stayed still, his Marine training kicking in, slow movements, no threat. The crowd watched, some smirking, others whispering bets on the dog's reaction. Titan's eyes, dull with pain, met Ryan's, a flash of something, recognition maybe, passing between them. Then in a blur, Titan lunged, teeth bared, aiming for Ryan's throat. The crowd gasped, Grace stifling a scream, but Ryan didn't flinch. Inches from his face, Titan froze, his hot breath mingling with Ryan's steady exhale, their eyes locked, a silent understanding cutting through the chaos. Slowly, Titan backed away, confusion replacing rage, his growl fading. "Holy crap," someone muttered. "He's a goner." Laura's voice was soft, awed. "He stopped. I've never seen him do that." Ryan stood, his voice firm. "He's not a goner." "He's mine." The auctioneer shrugged, tossing the leash. "Your funeral, pal." Grace's hand shook as she touched Ryan's shoulder, her voice breaking. "Why, Ryan?" "Why him?" He looked at her, his eyes raw. "Because no one else will, Mom. I know what it's like to be left behind." Laura approached, her voice urgent. "His records are sealed, but those scars, they're not from combat. Someone did this to him." Ryan nodded, his gaze on Titan, who hadn't moved but watched him now, wary but curious. The twist landed like a punch. Grace pulled a crumpled flyer from her purse, her voice trembling. "I found this in your truck, Ryan. It's about a military dog marked for euthanasia. It said aggressive, untrainable. Why didn't you tell me? Ryan's face paled, his voice barely a whisper. I saw it in the paper, felt like it was meant for me to find him. Laura's eyes widened, her voice low. That flyer wasn't public. Someone wanted this dog gone, fast. Sarah's heart raced, her voice fierce. Who'd do this to him? Titan's growl returned, soft but pointed, his eyes fixed on the exit where a man in a dark jacket lingered, watching before slipping away. Ryan took the leash, his voice steady. We're leaving, Titan. You're not staying in this cage. The dog didn't move, his body rigid, but as Ryan stepped toward the door, Titan took a tentative step, then another, following, not trusting but willing. Grace's tears fell, her voice a whisper. Be careful, Ryan. He's not just a dog. He's a survivor like you. Laura handed Ryan her card, her voice firm. Call me tomorrow. We'll figure out what happened to him. The crowd parted, their jeers silenced as Ryan and Titan walked out, the German Shepherd's scarred form a testament to pain, and Ryan's quiet resolve a spark of hope. The auction house faded behind them, but Sarah knew Titan's scars held secrets, and their journey was just beginning. The Wyoming dawn painted the Pine Hollow Valley in soft golds. The Mitchell family ranch a quiet haven of weathered barns and rolling pastures. Ryan Mitchell sat on his porch, his brown hair tousled, his carpenter's jacket slung over a chair, a steaming mug of coffee untouched in his hands. At 32, the former Marine carried the weight of his PTSD in the lines of his face, his days filled with woodworking and solitude. Titan, the black German shepherd he'd saved from the Laramie County auction house, lay in the yard, his scarred muzzle still, his dull coat hiding ribs that spoke of past cruelty. The dog hadn't eaten, hadn't come near, his wary eyes tracking Ryan from a distance. Grace Mitchell, 60, her silver hair in a neat bun, her retired teacher's sweater crisp, stepped out, her voice gentle but strained. Ryan, you haven't slept, have you? She eyed Titan, concern etching her face. Ryan's gaze stayed on the dog, his voice low. He's not ready to trust yet, Mom. Neither am I. Titan's stillness was a mirror to Ryan's own, both scarred by battles others couldn't see. Grace sat beside him, her hand brushing his arm. You saw something in him, didn't you? Like he's more than just a dog. Ryan nodded, his throat tight, the memory of Titan's lunge and pause at the auction haunting him. He's a survivor, Mom, like me. I couldn't leave him there. Grace's eyes softened, but her voice trembled. I'm proud of you, but he's hurt, Ryan. What if he's too far gone? Ryan's jaw clenched, his voice fierce. He's not. I'll prove it. A truck rumbled up the gravel drive, kicking up dust. Doctor? Laura Bennett, 45, her blonde hair tied back, her vet coat practical, stepped out, a medical bag in hand. She'd been at the auction, her attempts to save Titan blocked by red tape. Morning, she called, her eyes on Titan, who tensed, a low growl rumbling. Ryan stood, his voice calm. Easy, boy. She's here to help. Laura stopped short, her voice soft. He's not eating, is he? Those scars. They're not just old wounds. Someone tortured him. Sarah's hand covered her mouth, her voice breaking. Tortured? Who'd do that to a military dog? Laura knelt, keeping her distance, her voice steady. His records are sealed, but I found a partial file. He was called Ghost, served 3 tours, then nothing, like he was erased. Ryan crouched near Titan, his voice low. You're not Ghost anymore, buddy. You're Titan now. The dog's ears flicked, his eyes meeting Ryan's, a flicker of curiosity beneath the fear. Grace's voice was urgent. Laura, why hide his past? What's someone covering up? Laura's face darkened, her voice low. "I don't know, but that flyer you found, Grace." It wasn't meant to be seen. Someone wanted him gone. Ryan's pulse quickened, his voice sharp. "Who?" "The military?" Laura shook her head, her voice tense. "Maybe. Or someone higher. I've seen dogs retired honorably. This isn't that." Titan's growl deepened, his body shifting toward the fence line, where a black SUV idled in the distance, its driver obscured. Grace's breath caught, her voice a whisper. "Ryan, that's been there all morning." Ryan's hand hovered near his toolbox, where he kept an old service pistol, his voice cold. "They're watching us." Laura stood, her voice urgent. "Ryan, we need to check him for tags, trackers, anything. If he's military, they might have embedded something." Ryan nodded, his voice steady but raw. "Do it, but go slow. He doesn't trust hands." Laura approached Titan, her movements deliberate, but the dog lunged, teeth bared, forcing her back. Grace gasped, her voice trembling. "Ryan, stop her. He'll hurt someone." But Ryan knelt closer, his voice calm, unyielding. "Titan, it's okay. We're not them. You're safe." The dog's growl faltered, his eyes locked on Ryan's, a moment of trust flickering. The twist landed like a thunderbolt. Laura's gloved hand brushed Titan's neck, finding a metal lump under his fur, hidden by scar tissue. "It's a chip," she whispered, her face paling. "Military grade, not standard issue. Someone's been tracking him." Sarah's voice cracked, tears spilling. "Tracking him? Why? What did they do to you, Titan?" The SUV's engine roared, tires screeching as it sped off, leaving dust in its wake. Ryan's blood ran cold, his voice a growl. "They know we have him. They're coming." Laura bagged the chip, her voice fierce. "We need to move him, Ryan. Somewhere safe." Ryan stood, his eyes on Titan, who watched him, still but alert. "He's not going anywhere but with me. We're in this together." Grace hugged herself, her voice breaking. "Ryan, this is bigger than you. What if they hurt you?" He looked at her, his voice raw. "Then I'll fight for him, Mom, like I should have fought for my team." Titan took a step toward Ryan, his first voluntary move, his scarred muzzle brushing Ryan's hand. The ranch was no longer just a refuge, it was a battleground, and Titan's past held secrets that someone would kill to keep buried. The Wyoming night draped Pine Hollow in a heavy stillness, the Mitchell Ranch a fortress of shadows under a moonless sky. Ryan Mitchell sat in the darkened kitchen, his brown hair tousled, his carpenter's jacket slung over a chair, a loaded service pistol on the table. The weight of his PTSD pressed harder now, sharpened by the black SUV that had stalked the ranch and the military-grade tracker Doctor. Laura Bennett had found embedded in Titan's neck. The black German shepherd lay by the door, his scarred muzzle tense, his brown eyes scanning the darkness, his ribs still stark beneath his dull coat. Grace Mitchell, 60, her silver hair loose, her retired teacher's sweater rumpled, clutched a mug of tea, her hands trembling. The auction house rescue felt like a lifetime ago, Titan's wary steps toward Ryan, now overshadowed by a growing threat. The ranch, once Ryan's sanctuary, was now a target, and the secrets in Titan's past were closing in. "Ryan, you need to sleep," Grace said, her voice soft but strained, glancing at Titan, who hadn't eaten since the auction. Ryan's eyes stayed on the dog, his voice low, raw. "Can't, Mom. They're watching us." "That chip wasn't an accident." Grace's mug clinked against the table, her voice breaking. "Who, Ryan? Who'd track a dog like that?" Ryan's jaw clenched, the memory of Titan's lunge and pause at the auction burning in his chest. "Someone who wants him gone. He knows something." A soft knock broke the silence. Titan's growl was low, his hackles up, his body coiled. Ryan grabbed the pistol, motioning Grace to stay back, his voice a whisper. "Get to the bedroom, Mom." Grace hesitated, her eyes on Titan, then nodded, slipping away. Ryan opened the door a crack, revealing Laura, 45, her blonde hair damp from the night's chill, her vet coat creased, a folder in hand. "It's me," she said, her voice urgent. "We need to talk." Titan's growl softened, but he stayed alert, his eyes on Laura as she stepped inside, her gaze flicking to the gun. "You're expecting trouble," she said, setting the folder down. Ryan's voice was grim. "After that SUV? Yeah." Laura opened the folder, revealing grainy military documents. "I got a contact to pull strings. Titan's real name is Bravo, 3 combat tours, Marine Special Ops. His last handler reported him unstable under Colonel David Holt's command." Ryan's pulse quickened, his voice sharp. "Holt, the guy running K9 programs?" Laura nodded, her face pale. "Holt's program was brutal. Shock collars, starvation." Bravo showed defiance, so they marked him for disposal. Grace reappeared, her voice trembling. "Disposal? He's a hero, not a machine." Titan's whine echoed her pain, his nose nudging Ryan's hand, seeking reassurance. Ryan studied the papers, his voice cold. "They buried him, erased his record." Laura's voice dropped, urgent. "There's more. That chip? It's got a GPS log. Someone's been tracking him since he left the military. And this." She pulled out a photo, a younger Titan, collared, beside Holt at a training facility. Holt signed off on his auction. Grace's hand covered her mouth, her voice a sob. "They sold him like trash." "After all he did?" Titan's growl deepened, his body shifting toward the window where headlights flickered in the distance, a black SUV idling, too close. Ryan's hand tightened on the pistol, his voice a growl. "They're back." Laura's eyes widened, her voice fierce. "We need to move him, Ryan, now." But Titan's bark erupted, sharp, his body lunging at the door as tires crunched closer. Ryan shoved the table aside, his voice urgent. "Mom, get to the cellar." Grace grabbed Laura's arm, her voice breaking. "Ryan, don't do this alone." He ignored her, his marine instincts kicking in, motioning Laura to follow Grace. "Go." "I've got Titan." The SUV's doors slammed, 3 men in dark gear emerging, one holding a tranquilizer gun. "Mitchell," the leader called, his voice smooth but cold. "Hand over the dog." "No one gets hurt." Titan's snarl was thunderous, his hackles up, guarding Ryan, who stepped onto the porch, pistol raised. "He's not yours," Ryan said, his voice lethal. "Leave, or you're not walking away." The leader laughed, raising the tranq gun. "That mutt's a liability. You don't know what you're protecting." The twist landed like a bomb. Titan lunged, not at the men, but at Ryan, knocking him aside as a dart hissed past, embedding in the porch. The dog's move was deliberate, precise, his military training clear. Ryan scrambled up, firing a warning shot, scattering the men. "Titan, stay!" he yelled, but the German shepherd charged, tackling the leader, his jaws disarming the tranq gun, pinning him to the dirt. Grace screamed from the cellar window, her voice raw. "Ryan, get him back!" Laura's voice joined, fierce. "He's protecting you. Don't let him die!" The second man drew a knife, lunging at Titan, but Ryan fired, grazing his arm, forcing him back. The third man bolted for the SUV, tires screeching as it sped off. Titan released the leader, who stumbled away, cursing. "You're dead, Mitchell. Holt's coming for you." Ryan grabbed Titan's collar, his voice shaking. "Good boy. You're okay." The dog's flanks heaved, blood seeping from a shallow cut, but his eyes met Ryan's, fierce, unwavering. Laura rushed out, her voice urgent. "He's hurt, Ryan." "We need to clean that cut." Grace followed, tears streaming, her voice fierce. "You could have died. Both of you." Ryan knelt beside Titan, his hand steadying the dog, his voice raw. He saved me, Mom, like he saved others before. Laura's flashlight revealed the cut, her voice grim. This isn't just about Titan. Holt's hiding something big. Those men weren't here to negotiate. Ryan's eyes darkened, his voice a vow. Then we find out what. For Titan. The ranch was silent again, but the night held a new weight. Holt's shadow loomed, and Titan's courage had ignited a fight Ryan couldn't walk away from. The Wyoming night was a cold, inky veil, the outskirts of Pine Hollow cloaked in fog as Ryan Mitchell crouched behind a rusted dumpster in an abandoned industrial lot. His brown hair was damp with sweat, his carpenter's jacket torn from the frantic dash from his ranch after the ambush. His heart hammered, Titan's scarred muzzle and fierce eyes flashing in his mind. The black German shepherd now hidden in a nearby shed with Grace Mitchell, his 60-year-old mother. The raid by Colonel David Holt's men, sent to reclaim Titan, had left Ryan with a bruised rib and a burning resolve. Titan, once Bravo, a military K9 brutalized under Holt's command, was no ordinary dog. His tracker chip and sealed records hinted at secrets someone would kill to keep buried. Dr. Laura Bennett, 45, her blonde hair tucked under a cap, her vet coat swapped for a dark jacket, knelt beside Ryan, her breath visible in the chill. Agent Mark Reynolds, 50. His gray hair mussed, his FBI jacket creased, scanned the lot with a flashlight, clutching a tip about Holt's hidden files. The lot, a former storage site for Holt's K9 program, loomed, its sagging warehouse a vault of danger. "Loading dock, east side," Mark whispered, his voice taut, pointing to a flickering light inside. "Guards, 3, armed. We get those files. We nail Holt." Ryan's hands shook, clutching a crowbar, his marine instincts warring with fear, but his voice was fierce. "For Titan, for every dog he broke, I'm in." Titan's lunge to save him from a tranquilizer dart fueled his resolve, the dog's bloodied cut a badge of loyalty. Grace, her silver hair loose, her teacher's sweater left behind, had insisted on coming, now guarding Titan, her voice echoing in Ryan's head. "Don't let them take him, Ryan." Laura's eyes met Ryan's, her voice steady but urgent. "Titan's chip logged this place. If Holt's hiding evidence, it's here." Ryan nodded, his throat tight, the ambush's threat. "Holt's coming for you," ringing in his ears. "Let's move," he said, his voice low. Mark's flashlight caught a guard's shadow, radio buzzing. "They're shredding files," he said, his face grim. "We're out of time." Titan's whine, muffled from the shed, was a call to action, urging Ryan forward through the fog, his nose sniffing for threats even from a distance. The dock door was ajar, revealing a cavernous interior, crates, shredded paper piles, and a faint hum of machinery. Ryan slipped in, Laura and Mark covering his flanks, the warehouse smelling of oil and decay. His flashlight swept a crate labeled K9 Disposal, his breath catching. Files, photos of dogs, Titan's name scrawled on one, marked terminated. "They planned to kill him," he gasped, his voice trembling, grabbing a folder. Mark pried open another crate, pulling out a burner phone and a ledger. "This lists every dog Holt retired," he said, his voice low. "It's enough to bury him." Titan's bark cut through, sharp and urgent, from the shed. Laura's pulse spiked, her voice a whisper. "He's warning us." Ryan spun, his crowbar raised as boots echoed. A steel door labeled Records creaked open, revealing a chilling sight. A shredder, still warm, and a bloodied dog collar engraved. "Alpha." Laura's voice broke, tears falling. "They're destroying everything. Dogs, records, lives." Titan's bark grew frantic, his body likely straining against Grace's grip. Mark's radio crackled, Grace's voice panicked. "Ryan, men are here." They're coming for Titan. Headlights roared outside, two black SUVs screeching into the lot. Holt's men spilling out. 5, rifles raised, their leader shouting, "The files! The dog, now!" Ryan dove behind a crate, clutching the folder, Laura and Mark scrambling for cover. Titan's snarl echoed, breaking free from the shed, tackling a guard, his jaws disarming a rifle, pinning him to the ground. Grace's scream followed, her voice raw. "Titan, no!" Ryan fired a warning shot, his voice a roar. "Stay back or you're done," the leader laughed, aiming at Titan. "That mutt's a liability, Mitchell. Holt wants him silenced." Laura swung her flashlight, cracking a guard's wrist, her voice fierce. "You're not touching him." Titan's snarl shielded Ryan, who tackled another guard, zip-tying him, his bruised ribs screaming. Grace ran from the shed, her voice desperate. "Ryan, they're everywhere!" Mark fired, grazing a third man, but more poured in. 7 tasers and crowbars pinning them. The leader's radio buzzed, Holt's voice cold, commanding, "End it!" "Burn the place." Ryan's blood froze, his voice trembling. "Burn it? With us inside?" The twist landed like a sledgehammer. Grace, clutching a hidden file she'd grabbed from the shed, screamed, "They're not just after Titan. These are Holt's contracts, millions tied to private militias." Laura's eyes widened, her voice raw. "He's selling dogs to mercenaries, using them to hide his deals." Titan's bark spiked, his nose pawing a crate, revealing a hidden laptop streaming live, a feed of the ranch, Ryan's workshop visible, rigged with explosives. "They're targeting you," Mark gasped, his voice breaking, clutching the ledger. Ryan's pistol snapped up, his voice fierce. "We're trapped." More guards flooded in, 9, armed, surrounding them. Titan lunged, disarming a taser, protecting Grace, while Mark's shots bought seconds, grazing a guard. Ryan's rib throbbed, but he shielded Laura, his voice desperate. "Titan, back!" The dog obeyed, his eyes locked on Ryan, blood seeping from his cut. Grace's voice was a sob. "Ryan, don't let them win." The leader aimed at Titan, his voice cold. "Say goodbye to your mutt." Ryan threw a crate lid, knocking the rifle free, his rage a Marine's fire. "You'll never touch him!" Titan spun, pinning another guard, his jaws fierce but controlled. Laura tackled a third, but Holt's voice buzzed again, chilling. "You're out of time, Mitchell. The ranch goes up in flames." Ryan's scream was primal, Titan's loyalty, his anchor. Sirens wailed, FBI cruisers storming the lot, floodlights cutting the fog. Mark cuffed the leader, his voice grim. "You're done." Ryan clung to Titan, Grace's arms around them, Laura's voice a sob. "You kept us alive, boy." Mark grabbed the laptop, his face set. "This name's Holt's buyers, cartels, militias. We've got him." But Ryan's tears fell, his voice raw. "The ranch, Mark." "They're gonna blow it." Titan's eyes met his, fierce, ready, a vow to fight. Laura's hand gripped his shoulder, her voice fierce. "We'll save it, Ryan." Titan's with us. The warehouse was secure, but Holt's shadow loomed, the ranch in peril. Ryan's fight, for Titan, for justice, was a race against time, and Titan's instincts were their only hope. The Wyoming fog was a thick shroud, the Pine Hollow outskirts a maze of derelict warehouses under a moonless sky. Ryan Mitchell gripped a flashlight, his brown hair matted with sweat, his carpenter's jacket torn from the warehouse raid where they'd uncovered Colonel David Holt's damning files. His bruised rib throbbed, but his heart raced with fear for his ranch, rigged with explosives by Holt's men, and for Titan, the black German shepherd whose loyalty had saved him from a tranquilizer dart. Titan moved silently beside him, his scarred muzzle low, his brown eyes piercing the mist, the cut on his flank bandaged but still seeping. Once Bravo, a military K-9 brutalized under Holt's command, Titan's tracker chip and sealed records pointed to a conspiracy. Dr. Laura Bennett, 45, her blonde hair tucked under a hood, her vet coat swapped for a dark jacket, clutched a stolen ledger, her breath sharp. Agent Mark Reynolds, 50, his gray hair damp, his FBI jacket creased, carried the laptop with Holt's contracts, evidence of dogs sold to militias. The warehouse, a secondary hub for Holt's operation, loomed, its rusted gates a gateway to answers or danger. Back entrance now, Mark whispered, his voice taut, pointing to a chained door. Guards 4, armed. We get the microchip's data. We expose Holt's buyers. Ryan's hands shook, his flashlight beam unsteady, his marine instincts battling dread, but his voice was fierce. Titan's not dying for Holt's secrets. We end this. Titan's whine was soft, his nose nudging Ryan's hand, his loyalty a lifeline after the ambush's chilling threat. The ranch goes up in flames. Grace Mitchell, 60, her silver hair hidden under a scarf, stayed at the ranch with deputies, guarding it, her voice echoing, "Save him, Ryan." Laura's eyes met Ryan's, her voice steady but urgent. The chip logged this site, Holt's hiding more. Dogs, deals, something big. Ryan nodded, his throat tight, the image of Titan tackling Holt's man burning in his mind. "Let's move," he said, his voice low. Mark's flashlight caught a guard's silhouette, radio buzzing. "They're loading crates," he said, his face grim. "Dogs or evidence. We're out of time." Titan's growl was low, his hackles up, leading them through the fog, his nose sniffing for threats, his training evident despite his trauma. The chain door yielded to Mark's bolt cutters, revealing a dank interior, crates, shredded documents, and a faint whimper from a locked bay. Ryan's pulse spiked, his voice a whisper. "Dogs?" Titan's bark was sharp, his body tensing at a steel door marked K9 Storage. Laura pried it open, the sight inside gut-wrenching. 2 German shepherds, emaciated, caged, their collars engraved with military tags. "They're alive," Ryan gasped, rushing forward, Titan guarding him, his whine desperate. One dog, a female, whimpered, her eyes dull. "We're here," Ryan said, cutting the locks, tears burning. Mark's pistol covered the door, his voice fierce. "We've got you, pups. Hang on." Laura grabbed a crate's lid, revealing burner phones, sedatives, and a microchip reader. "This links to Holt's network," she said, bagging a phone, but Titan's growl turned feral, his nose pawing a hidden crate. Ryan yanked it open, his breath catching, a laptop streaming live, not just the ranch, but a dozen caged dogs in a nearby facility, their tags visible. "They're selling them," Laura screamed, tears streaming, clutching the reader. "Holt's shipping dogs to cartels." Headlights roared outside, 3 black SUVs screeching into the lot, Holt's men spilling out. 6 rifles and tasers, their leader shouting, "The dogs! The files! Now!" Ryan dove behind a crate, shielding the shepherds, Titan charging, tackling the leader, his jaws disarming a rifle, pinning him to the concrete. Mark fired, grazing a second man, his shots precise, but the others advanced, bullets shattering crates. Laura's arm bled from a graze, but she tackled a third, zip-tying him, her voice raw. "Ryan, get the dogs out!" Ryan's rage erupted, his voice a roar. "You're not taking them!" He swung his crowbar, cracking a guard's knee, Titan's snarl shielding the shepherds, who cowered behind him, the female nudging Ryan's leg, seeking safety. Grace's voice crackled through Mark's radio, desperate. "Ryan, the ranch is surrounded." "They're cutting the power!" Ryan's heart stopped, his voice trembling. "Mom, hold on!" The leader, bloodied, laughed, his voice cold. "Holt's torching your home, Mitchell." "Say goodbye." The twist landed like a bomb. A woman's voice buzzed through the leader's radio, sharp, commanding, "Finish them, or I take over." Not Holt, but a partner, orchestrating from the shadows. Laura's eyes widened, her voice raw. A woman. "Who's with him?" Titan's bark spiked, his nose at a crate, pawing frantically. Mark ripped it open, revealing a hidden drive with emails, not just Holt, but a codename, Spectre, linked to a cartel financier. "She's the money," Mark gasped, clutching the drive. "Holt's just the front." Ryan's pistol snapped up, his voice fierce. "We're pinned." More guards flooded in, 8 armed surrounding them. Titan lunged, disarming a taser, protecting the dogs while Laura's shots bought seconds, grazing a guard. Ryan's rib screamed, but he shielded the shepherds, his voice desperate. "Grace, get to the cellar." The female shepherd whimpered, pressing against him, her trust a mirror of Titan's. The leader aimed at Titan, his voice cold. "Your mutts first." Ryan threw a crate lid, knocking the rifle free, his rage a marine's fire. "You'll never touch him." Titan spun, pinning another guard, his jaws fierce but controlled. Mark tackled a third, but the radio buzzed again, the woman's voice chilling. "Burn it all, Holt." "Mitchell's done." Ryan's scream was primal. Titan's loyalty, his anchor. Sirens wailed, FBI cruisers storming the lot, floodlights cutting the fog. Mark cuffed the leader, his voice grim. "You're done." Ryan clung to Titan and the shepherds, Laura's voice a sob. "You saved them, Ryan." Grace's voice crackled through, shaken but alive. "We're okay, Ryan." The deputies held them off. Mark grabbed the drive, his face set. "This names Spectre's cartel ties. We're close." But Ryan's tears fell, his voice raw. "The ranch, Mark. They're still out there." Titan's eyes met his, fierce, ready, a vow to fight. Laura's hand gripped his shoulder, her voice fierce. "We'll protect it, Ryan. Titan's with us." The warehouse was secure, the dogs safe, but Spectre's shadow loomed. The ranch still at risk. Ryan's fight, for Titan, for justice, was a race against a hidden enemy, and Titan's instincts were their only guide. The Wyoming rain lashed Pine Hollow, the Mitchell Ranch a beleaguered outpost under a storm-charged sky. Ryan Mitchell sat in the dimly lit barn, his brown hair plastered to his forehead, his carpenter's jacket bloodied from the warehouse raid where they'd rescued 2 German shepherds and uncovered Colonel David Holt's ties to a cartel financier, codenamed Spectre. His bruised rib throbbed, but his heart pounded with dread for the ranch, still rigged with explosives, and for Titan, the black German shepherd whose loyalty had saved him again. Titan lay beside him, his scarred muzzle tense, his brown eyes tracking the shadows, his bandaged flank a testament to his fight. Once Bravo, a military canine brutalized under Holt's command, Titan's tracker chip and the stolen drive pointed to a vast conspiracy. Grace Mitchell, 60, her silver hair damp, her teacher's sweater soaked, clutched a flashlight, her hands trembling. "Doctor." Laura Bennett, 45, her blonde hair loose, her vet coat discarded, pored over the drive's emails on a laptop. Agent Mark Reynolds, 50, his gray hair mussed, his FBI jacket torn, stood guard at the barn door, pistol ready. The barn, their last refuge, creaked under the storm, a fragile shield against Holt's wrath. "Ryan, you're hurt," Grace said, her voice trembling, eyeing his rib. "You can't keep going like this." Ryan's gaze stayed on Titan, his voice raw. "I'm not stopping, Mom." "Not while Holt's out there, not while Titan's fighting for me." Grace's flashlight wavered, her voice breaking. "He's just a dog, Ryan. Why risk everything?" Titan's whine was soft, his nose nudging Ryan's hand, his loyalty piercing Ryan's heart. "He's not just a dog," Ryan said, his throat tight. "He's my partner. He saved me, like I couldn't save my team." Laura looked up from the laptop, her voice urgent. These emails confirm Holt's selling dogs to cartels, but Spector's the real power. Someone high up, maybe political. She pulled up a grainy photo. Holt at a military base beside a woman in a suit, her face obscured. This is her, Spector, funding Holt's program. Ryan's pulse quickened, his voice sharp. Who is she? Laura shook her head, her face grim. No name, but she's tied to your old unit, Ryan. Your PTSD report, it flagged Holt's methods. Grace's breath caught, her voice a sob. They targeted you because you spoke up? Mark's radio crackled, Deputy Tom Brady at the ranch's perimeter, his voice tense. Ryan, black SUVs, no plates, circling the property. They're here. Titan's bark erupted, sharp, his body lunging at the barn door as headlights pierced the rain. 4 SUVs, Holt's men, screeching to a halt. Inside! Mark yelled, shoving Ryan and Laura behind a hay bale, pistol raised. Grace clutched the flashlight, her voice a sob. Ryan! Stay down! Ryan grabbed his service pistol, his voice fierce. Titan, with me! The German shepherd stood firm, his growl thunderous, guarding Ryan. The barn doors splintered, 6 men in tactical gear storming in, rifles raised, their leader shouting, The dog, the drive, now! Titan charged, a black blur, tackling the leader, his jaws disarming a rifle, pinning him to the dirt. Mark fired, grazing a second man, his shot steady, but the others advanced, bullets shredding bales. Laura swung a shovel, cracking a guard's arm, her voice raw. You're not taking him! Ryan tackled a third, zip-tying him, his rib screaming, his voice desperate. Mom, get to the loft! Grace scrambled up, her voice breaking. Ryan, don't leave Titan! Titan spun, shielding Ryan, his bloodied flank heaving, but his eyes burned with defiance. The leader, bloodied, laughed, his voice cold. Holt's done with you, Mitchell. Spector wants that dog dead. Ryan's rage erupted, his voice a roar. He's not yours! He fired, grazing a guard, but more men flooded in. 8 tasers and crowbars, pinning them. Mark's arm bled, but he swung a pitchfork, cracking a guard's knee. Titan lunged, disarming a taser, protecting Laura, who clung to the laptop, whispering, He's fighting for us, Ryan. The twist landed like a gut punch. The leader's radio buzzed. Spector's voice, a woman, cold and commanding. Kill them all, but bring me Bravo's chip. Ryan's blood froze, his voice trembling. She knows his name? How? Titan's growl turned feral, his nose pawing the leader's jacket, revealing a hidden microchip reader buzzing with data. Laura yanked it out, her voice raw. It's a log. Holt's been tracking every dog he sold, and Titan's chip has it all. Mark's eyes widened, his voice breaking. That's why they want him dead. He's proof of their deals. Ryan's pistol snapped up, his voice fierce. We're surrounded. More guards poured in, 10, armed, closing the circle. Titan lunged, disarming a crowbar, protecting Grace, who screamed from the loft. Ryan, save him! Laura's shots bought seconds, grazing a guard, but Ryan's rib burned, his voice desperate. Titan, stay! The dog obeyed, his eyes locked on Ryan, blood dripping. The leader aimed at Titan, his voice cold. Time's up, mutt! Ryan threw a hay bale, knocking the rifle free, his rage a Marine's fire. You'll never touch him! Titan pinned another guard, his jaws fierce but controlled. Mark tackled a third, but Spector's voice buzzed again, chilling. The ranch burns now, Mitchell. You've lost. Ryan's scream was primal, Titan's loyalty his anchor. A child's cry pierced the chaos. Emma, Grace's 9-year-old granddaughter, hidden in the loft, her voice trembling. Titan, don't die! Grace's sob followed. Emma, how'd you get here? The guards froze, startled, giving Ryan a split-second edge. Sirens wailed, FBI cruisers storming the ranch, floodlights cutting the rain. Mark cuffed the leader, his voice grim. You're done. Ryan clung to Titan, Grace and Emma rushing down, Laura's voice a sob. You're a hero, Titan. Emma hugged the dog, her voice fierce. You saved us. Mark grabbed the reader, his face set. This logs Holt's cartel drops, Spectres exposed. But Ryan's tears fell, his voice raw. The ranch, Mark, they're still out there. Titan's eyes met his, fierce, ready, a vow to fight. Grace's hand gripped his, her voice fierce. We'll rebuild, Ryan. Titan's with us. The barn was secure, but Spectre's shadow loomed, the ranch still at risk. Ryan's fight, for Titan, for justice, was a war against a hidden enemy, and Titan's instincts were their only guide. The Wyoming rain had eased to a mist, the Pine Hollow airstrip, a fortress of steel hangars and razor wire under a gray dawn. Ryan Mitchell crouched behind a stack of cargo crates, his brown hair damp with sweat, his carpenter's jacket bloodied from the military training grounds raid, where Titan had saved 4 German shepherds and unmasked Colonel David Holt. His bruised rib burned, but his heart raced with fear for the ranch, still rigged with explosives, and for Titan, the black German shepherd whose instincts had exposed Holt's cartel ties to Spectre, a shadowy financier. Titan pressed against him, his scarred muzzle low, his brown eyes slicing through the fog, his bandaged flank a testament to his courage. Once Bravo, a military K-9 brutalized under Holt's command, Titan's microchip had revealed a network of 50 caged dogs. Grace Mitchell, 60, her silver hair hidden under a scarf, guarded the ranch with deputies protecting Emma, her 9-year-old granddaughter. Dr. Laura Bennett, 45, her blonde hair loose, her vet coat swapped for a dark jacket, clutched the stolen drive, her breath sharp. Agent Mark Reynolds, 50, his gray hair mussed, his FBI jacket torn, held the laptop with Holt's contracts, evidence of Spectre's global reach. The airstrip, Spectre's final hub, loomed, its tarmac a battleground for truth. Cargo hangar now. Mark whispered, his voice hoarse, pointing to a flickering light inside. Guards, 6, armed. We get the dogs. We get Spectre. Ryan's hands trembled, clutching a flashlight, his marine instincts ablaze despite the pain. Titan's not dying for their secrets, he said, his voice fierce. Emma's cry. Titan, don't die. Echoing in his chest. Titan's whine was urgent, his nose sniffing the air, guiding them through the airstrip's maze of crates and fuel drums. Laura's eyes met Ryan's, her voice steady but urgent. Titan's chip logged this airstrip, Spectre's shipping dogs tonight. Ryan nodded, his throat tight. The barn's terror. Burn the ranch. Fueling him. Burn the... Let's end it, he said, his voice low. Mark's flashlight caught a guard silhouette, radio buzzing. They're loading a plane, he said, his grazed legs stiff but his face set. Dogs are evidence. We hit hard. Titan's growl was low, his hackles up, slipping through a side door, Ryan and the others following, the hangar's air thick with jet fuel and dread. Inside, the hangar was a cavern of crates and cargo nets, a faint whimper echoing from a locked bay. Titan's bark was sharp, his body tensing at a steel door marked Freight. Ryan jimmied it open, the sight harrowing. 6 German shepherds, emaciated, caged, their military tags glinting. You're safe, Ryan gasped, rushing forward, Titan guarding him, his whine desperate. A female, scarred, whimpered, her eyes pleading. We've got you, Ryan said, cutting the locks, tears burning, Emma's trust in Titan, his anchor. Mark's pistol covered the door, his voice fierce. Move, pups. We're out. Laura grabbed a crate's contents, files, shock collars, a video drive. This shows Spectre's buyers, cartels, militias, she said, bagging a phone. But Titan's growl turned rabid, his nose pawing a hidden crate. Ryan yanked it open, his breath catching. A live feed, not just the dogs, but Emma at the ranch, sleeping, streamed to an unknown viewer. "They're still after her," Ryan screamed, his voice breaking, clutching the female shepherd. Headlights roared outside, 6 black SUVs screeching onto the tarmac, Spectre's men spilling out. 10 rifles and tasers, their leader shouting, "The dogs! The drive! Now!" Ryan dove behind a crate, shielding the shepherds. Titan charging, tackling the leader, his jaws disarming a rifle, pinning him to the concrete. Mark fired, grazing a second man, his shots precise despite his bleeding leg, but the others advanced, bullets shredding crates. Laura's arm bled, but she tackled a third, zip-tying him, her voice raw. "Ryan, get the dogs to the exit." Ryan's rage erupted, his voice a roar. "You're not taking them." He swung his crowbar, cracking a guard's wrist. Titan snarl, shielding the shepherds, who cowered behind him, the female pressing against Ryan's leg. Grace's voice crackled through Mark's radio, desperate. "Ryan, men are at the ranch. They're breaching the gate." Ryan's heart stopped, his voice trembling. "Mom, keep Emma safe." The leader, bloodied, laughed, his voice cold. "Spectre's torching your home, Mitchell. You're done." The twist landed like a sledgehammer. A figure stepped from the shadows, a woman, mid-50s, brunette, in a sleek suit, pistol aimed at Ryan. "You're a nuisance, Mitchell," she sneered, her voice venomous. Spectre herself, Ellen Vance, a former Pentagon official tied to Holt's program. "Bravo's a liability, and your PTSD report cost me millions." Ryan's blood froze, his voice trembling. "You funded his torture? For money?" Titan's snarl was primal, his body leaping at Vance, distracting her, the shot grazing Laura's shoulder, blood spraying. Ryan dove, tackling Vance, his fists swinging, a Marine's fury unleashed. "You'll never touch him!" Emma's courage. "Titan, don't die," fueled him, the crowbar cracking Vance's wrist, the gun clattering. Mark cuffed her, his voice grim. "You're done, Ellen." But Vance's laugh was chilling, her eyes wild. "My boss is untouchable, Mitchell. You've won nothing." Titan's growl spiked, his nose at Vance's coat, pawing a hidden pocket. Laura yanked out a microchip, buzzing with a new feed, 80 dogs, caged in a port in Colombia. "They're shipping them now," Laura gasped, her voice raw. Ryan's heart stopped, his voice a sob. 80 more. "How many?" The female shepherd clung to him, whimpering, mirroring Titan's trust. Laura hugged the dogs, her voice fierce. "We'll save them, Ryan." "Titan's our guide." Sirens roared, FBI cruisers storming the airstrip, floodlights cutting the mist. Mark secured Vance, his face set, blood seeping from his leg. "We've got her, but the boss is free." Laura grabbed the drive, her voice fierce. "This name's their global network. We're close." Titan's eyes met Ryan's, fierce, ready, a vow to protect Emma and the dogs. Ryan's tears fell, his voice raw. "You kept us alive, Titan. You're my brother." Mark's hand gripped his shoulder, his voice fierce despite the pain. "We're not done, Ryan." "Emma's safe, the dogs are free, but we hunt the boss." The airstrip was secure, the shepherd safe, but the boss's shadow loomed, Emma and the ranch at risk. Ryan's fight, for Titan, for justice, was a global war now, and Titan's instincts were their only hope. The Wyoming sun spilled golden light over Pine Hollow's community center, where townsfolk, veterans, and news crews gathered for a ceremony celebrating a triumph over darkness. Ryan Mitchell stood on a modest stage, his brown hair neatly combed, a clean flannel shirt replacing the bloodied carpenter's jacket from the airstrip raid where Titan had saved 6 German shepherds and unmasked Ellen Vance as Spectre. Beside him, Emma Mitchell, 9, clutched a stuffed puppy, her blonde pigtails bouncing, her blue jacket bright, her sneakers scuffed from sneaking to the barn. Titan, The black German shepherd sat proudly at Emma's side, his scarred muzzle calm, his brown eyes vigilant, his healed flank a badge of his relentless courage. Once Bravo, a military canine brutalized under Colonel David Holt's command, Titan's microchip had exposed a global trafficking network. Grace Mitchell, 60, her silver hair loose, her retired teacher's sweater crisp, stood nearby, her smile warm, but her eyes shadowed. Dr. Laura Bennett, 45, her blonde hair tied back, her vet coat pristine, reviewed medical files, her resolve unshaken. Agent Mark Reynolds, 50, his gray hair neat, his FBI jacket patched, scanned the crowd, the hunt for Spectre's boss ongoing. The ceremony pulsed with hope, but the microchip's feed of 80 caged dogs in Colombia and Vance's warning, "My boss is untouchable," cast a lingering shadow. Ryan gripped the podium, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "Titan didn't just save me. He saved us all," he said, eyes sweeping the crowd, Emma's hand in his. His courage cut through lies, and Emma's heart showed us what trust means. This is your story too, about fighting for what's right, no matter the cost. The crowd cheered, cameras flashing, a banner overhead reading, "Titan's Triumph." Ryan's throat tightened. The PTSD report that sparked this fight now a distant scar, but Emma's cry, "Titan, don't die," burned bright. Titan's whine was soft, his nose nudging Emma, who giggled, her fear fading. Emma took the mic, her small voice clear, "Titan's my hero. He stopped the bad people and loves us." The German shepherd licked her hand, the crowd awing, many wiping tears. Ryan knelt, hugging her, his voice cracking. "You're my hero, Emma. You and Titan gave me a reason to keep going." Emma hugged Titan, whispering, "You're the best dog ever." The air thrummed with unity. Pine Hollow, reborn through a girl and her protector. Grace joined, holding a plaque, her voice warm but trembling. "Titan's a K9 legend, and Emma's his light. We're launching Titan's Haven, a fund to rehab military dogs because of them." She handed Emma the plaque, the crowd roaring, kids waving signs. "Titan saves." Ryan's chest swelled, but doubt gnawed. "Grace, we got Vance, but the boss—" "Is Emma safe?" Titan's tail flicked, his eyes alert, sensing his unease. Grace's smile was fierce. "We're close, Ryan. Titan started this, and we'll finish it." Laura approached, her vet bag slung over her shoulder, her voice steady. "Feds are raiding ports, Colombia, Mexico. The boss, codenamed Phantom, is a cartel financier tied to Holt's contracts. We've got leads." She nodded at Titan, awe shining. "This dog's why those shepherds are home. He's a miracle." The crowd applauded, but Ryan's gaze drifted to Emma, his heart heavy, the feed of caged dogs, Phantom's shadow, Emma still a target. A familiar figure stepped forward. Ethan, 8, a shy boy whose father served with Ryan, holding a toy bone. "Titan saved my dad's dog," he said, voice soft, tossing the bone. Titan caught it, bounding back, the crowd laughing, Ethan's smile a beacon. Emma hugged him, her voice bright. "Titan saves everybody." Ryan's tears fell, his voice a whisper. "You're changing lives, Emma." Grace's hand squeezed his, her voice fierce. "You both are, Ryan." The ceremony buzzed, kids petting Titan, locals sharing stories, the fund soaring. Mark pulled Ryan aside, his voice low. "We found a name. Philip Kane, Phantom, ex-DIA, running the network from overseas. He's in Wyoming planning a final shipment." Ryan's heart sank, the twist chilling. Kane had been a guest at his Marine debrief, probing about Holt's dogs. "He knew me," Ryan whispered, his voice trembling. "He targeted Titan because of my report." Laura's radio crackled, a Fed's update. Kane's signal pinged in Cheyenne, planning a drop. We're moving. Titan's growl was faint, his nose twitching toward the crowd's edge. A man in a dark coat slipping away, unnoticed by most. Ryan's blood ran cold, his voice a whisper. "He's here, isn't he?" Emma clung to Titan, her small voice fierce. "Titan'll find him, Uncle Ryan, like he found the bad guys." The twist deepened. A volunteer, Sarah Klein, a local librarian, approached, offering Emma a cupcake, her smile too sharp. Titan's bark erupted, sharp, his body lunging at Klein, pinning her to the ground, snarling but controlled. Ryan's scream pierced the air, his voice fierce. "Get away from her!" Laura tackled Klein, her pistol drawn, finding a hidden burner phone in her purse, buzzing with a text. "Take Mitchell, girl. Phantom's orders." The crowd gasped, parents shielding kids, cameras rolling. Mark cuffed Klein, his face grim. "She's a mole, feeding Kane intel. We're closer." Emma's tears fell, her voice a sob. "Why do they want me, Uncle Ryan?" Ryan hugged her, his voice breaking. "Because you're brave, Emma, and Titan's braver. They can't beat us." Titan's whine was a vow, his eyes locked on Klein, his instincts unerring. Laura's voice was fierce despite her bandaged shoulder. "We've got Kane's trail, Ryan. Klein's phone has his location, a Cheyenne warehouse tonight." Mark's eyes blazed, his voice steady. "We end this, Ryan, for all of them." Ryan's resolve burned, his voice raw. "I'm coming, Mark. No one threatens Emma." Emma hugged Titan, her small voice fierce. "You'll save more dogs, won't you, Titan?" The German shepherd's eyes met hers, fierce, ready, a promise to protect. Grace handed Ryan a vest, her voice grim. "We're with you, Ryan." "Titan's our guide." The crowd's cheers faded, but Ryan's fire, the spark Emma and Titan had lit, was unstoppable. The twist landed harder. Klein's phone buzzed again. A final text. "Kane's not alone. The network's bigger than you know." Ryan's heart raced, the drive heavy in Laura's hands. Emma was safe, the shepherds free, but Phantom's shadow loomed. A global empire. Ryan's fight for Titan, for justice, was a race against time, and Titan's instincts were their only weapon. The warehouse waited, Kane's escape imminent, and Ryan knew this battle would decide everything. The Wyoming sunset painted Pine Hollow in hues of amber and rose, the community center aglow with warmth as locals, veterans, and news crews gathered to celebrate a victory over a sinister network. Ryan Mitchell stood at a podium, his brown hair neat, a clean flannel shirt replacing the bloodied carpenter's jacket from the Cheyenne warehouse raid where Titan had exposed Philip Kane, the cartel financier Phantom. Beside him, Emma Mitchell, 9, beamed, her blonde pigtails tied with ribbons, her blue jacket bright, her sneakers scuffed, clutching a stuffed puppy. Titan, the black German shepherd, sat tall, his scarred muzzle proud, his brown eyes soft yet vigilant, his healed flank a symbol of his courage. Once Bravo, a military K-9 brutalized under Colonel David Holt's command, Titan's microchip had dismantled a global trafficking ring, saving 80 dogs. Grace Mitchell, 60, her silver hair loose, her teacher's sweater crisp, smiled from the sidelines, pride in her eyes. Dr. Laura Bennett, 45, her blonde hair free, her vet coat pristine, stood nearby, her resolve unshaken. Agent Mark Reynolds, 50, his gray hair combed, his FBI jacket patched, watched the crowd, a lingering unease in his gaze. The ceremony pulsed with hope, but Kane's final text, "The network's bigger than you know," hinted at a shadow still lurking. Ryan gripped the podium, his voice clear, trembling with emotion. "Titan didn't just save me. He saved our souls," he said, eyes sweeping the crowd, Emma's hand in his. His heart broke through betrayal, and Emma's courage showed us what loyalty means. This is your story too, about trusting the bonds that heal us. The crowd roared, cameras flashing, a banner overhead reading, Titan's Haven. Ryan's throat tightened, his PTSD report that sparked this fight now a badge of honor. Emma's voice, Titan, don't die. A beacon of light. Titan's whine was soft, his nose nudging Emma, who giggled, her fear gone. Emma took the mic, her small voice ringing. Titan's my best friend. He saved the dogs and loves us. The German shepherd licked her hand, the crowd cheering, many wiping tears. Ryan knelt, hugging her, his voice cracking. You're my miracle, Emma. You and Titan gave me back my life. Emma hugged Titan, whispering, You're the best dog ever. The air hummed with unity, Pine Hollow reborn through a girl and her protector. Grace stepped up, holding a medal, her voice warm. Titan's a canine legend, and Emma's his spark. Titan's Haven will rehab military dogs and veterans because of them. She pinned the medal on Titan's collar, the crowd erupting, kids waving signs. Titan saves. Ryan's chest swelled, but fear lingered. Laura, we got Kane, but that text, is it over? Titan's tail flicked, his eyes alert, sensing his unease. Laura's smile was fierce. We're close, Ryan. Titan started this, and we'll keep fighting. Mark joined, his badge glinting, his voice steady. Feds are dismantling the network, hundreds arrested, dogs coming home from Colombia, Mexico, beyond. Kane's files exposed Phantom's empire. He nodded at Titan, awe shining. This dog's why Ethan, Lily, and so many are safe. He's changed everything. The crowd applauded, but Ryan's gaze drifted to Emma, his heart heavy. The text's warning, a new shadow, Emma still a potential target. A familiar figure approached, Ethan, 8, holding a toy bone, his father a Marine saved by Titan's unit. Titan's like my dad's dog, he said, voice shy, tossing the bone. Titan caught it, bounding back, the crowd laughing, Ethan's joy infectious. Emma hugged him, her voice bubbly. He saves everybody. Ryan's tears fell, his voice a whisper. You're making miracles, Emma. Grace's hand squeezed his, her voice fierce. You both are, Ryan. The celebration buzzed, kids petting Titan, locals sharing stories, the fund soaring. Mark pulled Ryan aside, his voice low. We trace the text, a new code name, Wraith, Kane's mentor, still free, tied to a global syndicate. He's vanished, but we're hunting. Ryan's heart sank, the twist chilling. Wraith had been a shadow at his Marine debrief, probing about Holt's dogs. He planned this, Ryan whispered, his voice trembling. Titan was always his target. Laura's radio crackled. A Fed's update. Wraith's signal pinged in Denver, planning a new shipment. We're moving. Titan's growl was faint, his nose twitching toward the crowd's edge. A woman in a dark scarf slipping away, unnoticed by most. Ryan's blood ran cold, his voice a whisper. She's one of them, isn't she? Emma clung to Titan, her small voice fierce. Titan'll find her, Uncle Ryan, like he found the bad lady. The twist deepened. A volunteer, Clara Evans, approached, offering Emma a juice box, her smile too tight. Titan's bark erupted, sharp, his body lunging at Evans, pinning her to the ground, snarling, but controlled. Ryan's scream pierced the air, his voice fierce. Get away from her! Mark tackled Evans, his pistol drawn, finding a hidden microchip in her purse, buzzing with a text. Wraith's orders, take Mitchell girl. The crowd gasped, parents shielding kids, cameras rolling. Laura cuffed Evans, her face grim. She's a courier, feeding Wraith intel. We're closer. Emma's tears fell, her voice a sob. Why me, Uncle Ryan? Ryan hugged her, his voice breaking. Because you're our light, Emma, and Titan's our strength. They can't win. Titan's whine was a vow, his eyes locked on Evan's, his instincts unerring. Mark's voice was fierce. "We've got Wraith's Trail, Ryan. Evan's chip has his next drop, Denver port tomorrow." Laura's eyes blazed, her voice steady. "We end this, Ryan, for all of them." Ryan took the mic, his voice heartfelt. Titan's story is about healing, trusting the instincts that guide us, the bonds that save us. It's yours, too. What's your story with a loyal pet? He smiled at Emma, who tossed the ball, Titan leaping, the crowd cheering. Join Titan's Haven. Help us save dogs and veterans, one heart at a time. Grace raised a glass, her voice carrying. To Emma, Ryan, and Titan, Pine Hollow Soul. The crowd toasted, kids mobbing Titan, Ryan's laughter mingling with Emma's. Laura handed him a letter from Ethan, his handwriting shaky. Titan's my hero. Thank you, Emma. Ryan's tears fell, clutching it, Titan's nose on his hand. You new boy, he whispered, kissing his head. The celebration faded, but Ryan's fire, the spark Emma and Titan had lit, was eternal, a beacon for the battles ahead.